Princess Kate stood on the balcony of her palace, her eyes scanning the horizon where the sun was beginning to rise. The soft golden light made the castle glow, but the beauty of the moment did not reach her troubled heart. She had always known that her kingdom was filled with secrets, but recently she felt as though the walls themselves were whispering to her. There was a sense of unease, a tension that clung to the air like a heavy fog. Her father, King Richard, ruled with a kind heart, but his advisors spoke in hushed tones about a new power rising in the kingdom, a man named Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel was no ordinary man. Once a traveler who wandered from city to city, he had built a reputation as an unbeatable game master. His fame spread quickly, and people from every corner of the realm came to witness his legendary game, a game that promised glory, but often left players with broken spirits. There were rumors that his game was more than just a challenge. It had a hold on the minds of those who dared to play. Kate had heard of the disappearances too. Young men and women who had entered the underground arena where Vin Diesel's game was held, never to return. She shivered at the thought. One evening, after a long day of royal duties, Kate wandered the halls of the palace, seeking the comfort of silence. Her mind was restless, filled with questions that no one seemed able to answer. As she walked past the old library, she overheard two guards talking in worried tones. "Did you hear about Thomas?" one guard said. "He played Diesel's game and hasn't been the same since. It's like he's under a spell." Kate's heart skipped a beat. She stopped and listened carefully. "It's not just Thomas," the second guard replied. "Half the guards who went to that game came back different. They follow Vin Diesel's orders like they're puppets." A chill ran down Kate's spine. She knew then that this was no ordinary game. Vin Diesel was threatening the very heart of her kingdom. But why? What did he want with her people? Determined to find answers, Kate returned to her private chambers and stared at the flickering candlelight. She knew she couldn't rely on her father's court to deal with this. Too many were already under Vin Diesel's influence. She had to act alone, but she wouldn't be reckless. She would learn everything she could about this man and his game. She would uncover the secret that gave him power over her people. She would find his weakness, and she would make him pay for every life he had stolen. As the night deepened, Kate changed out of her royal gown and into a simple cloak. She moved quietly through secret passages known only to her family, her mind sharp and focused. She would start with the underground arena, where Diesel's game was held. If she could see it for herself, maybe she could understand how he was controlling everyone. She paused at the edge of the palace grounds and looked back at the glowing windows of the castle. This was her home, her people. She would not let Vin Diesel's darkness spread any further. She felt fear, yes, but also a burning determination. She was Princess Kate, and she would fight to save her kingdom, even if it meant facing the darkness alone. With one last deep breath, she stepped into the night, her cloak swirling behind her, and disappeared into the shadows, ready to begin her secret mission. Princess Kate moved carefully through the dark streets of the kingdom, the sound of her footsteps muffled by the dirt path beneath her boots. Every shadow seemed to hold secrets. Every corner felt alive with hidden eyes. She had always felt safe in her home, but tonight the kingdom felt different, strange and dangerous. She gripped the hilt of the small dagger hidden beneath her cloak, just in case. She reached the edge of the main square where a few torches flickered, casting an eerie light on the old stone walls. This was where the underground arena was rumored to be hidden. She had overheard from the guards that Vin Diesel's game wasn't played in the open like a festival. It was a secret challenge, one that tested not only skill, but also the mind and spirit. Those who entered rarely spoke of it afterward, and those who did, well, they spoke with eyes that seemed hollow and voices that felt as though they came from somewhere else entirely. Kate's heart pounded as she crouched behind a stack of crates. She watched as two men, dressed in long cloaks, approached a door at the side of an old warehouse. One of them knocked 3 times and paused, then knocked twice more. The door creaked open just enough for them to slip inside. She memorized the sequence. This was her way in. Gathering her courage, Kate approached the door. She knocked 3 times, paused, then twice more. For a moment she thought no one would answer, but then the door creaked open, revealing a dim hallway lit by a single lantern. A guard with a scar across his cheek glared at her suspiciously. "Who are you?" he demanded. Thinking quickly, Kate lowered her hood slightly to hide her face in the shadows. "I'm here to watch the game," she said, keeping her voice calm and low. The guard grunted and stepped aside, allowing her to pass. As she walked down the hallway, the air grew colder and heavier. She could hear distant echoes of laughter and cries, the sounds of people both excited and afraid. The hallway opened into a vast underground chamber lit by torches. At the center was a large circular arena, surrounded by wooden benches where people gathered, their eyes fixed on the stage below. Vin Diesel stood at the center of the arena, his presence commanding. He wore a long black coat that swirled dramatically as he moved, his voice booming as he addressed the crowd. "Welcome, my friends," he shouted, his tone both charismatic and unsettling. "Tonight, you will witness true power. You will see who among you has the strength to rise above the rest." The crowd cheered, their faces lit with excitement and fear. Kate felt a chill run down her spine as she watched Diesel's eyes sweep the audience as if searching for someone. For a brief moment, she thought his gaze settled on her, but then he turned away. She took a seat on one of the benches, her mind racing. She had come here to understand his game, to find the secret that made it so dangerous. But seeing Vin Diesel in person made her realize just how powerful he was. His voice, his movements, even his presence, it all felt like a spell that drew people in and refused to let them go. Kate's mission was no longer just about curiosity. She needed to find a way to break this hold he had over her people. She needed to know how he made them obey, how he twisted their minds, and she needed to destroy that power before it spread even further. With a deep breath, she vowed to see this through, no matter what dangers lay ahead. She was ready to face Vin Diesel's game and uncover the truth that could save her kingdom from his grasp. Princess Kate sat quietly on the wooden bench, her eyes fixed on the arena below. The air was thick with tension, a mix of excitement and dread that seemed to grip every person in the underground chamber. Vin Diesel paced slowly in the center of the arena, his boots clicking on the stone floor. He carried himself with a confidence that made it clear he was the master of this place, and the audience respected, even feared him for it. Kate watched as 2 young men, both strong and determined, stepped into the arena at Vin Diesel's command. Their faces were pale but set with resolve. Diesel raised his hands, silencing the murmurs of the crowd. "Tonight," he declared, his voice echoing off the stone walls, "these brave challengers will face not only each other, but the true test of their minds. Only one will emerge victorious." The crowd roared in approval, but Kate felt her stomach twist. This was no ordinary game. She could sense it, the way people watched with a mix of admiration and fear, as if they were hoping for a champion, but terrified of what might happen next. As the challengers began their contest, a complicated mix of riddles, agility trials, and combat, Kate studied Vin Diesel carefully. She noticed the way he watched the players, his eyes sharp and calculating. Every time a challenger struggled or hesitated, Diesel's lips curved into a small, almost cruel smile. She leaned closer, trying to catch every detail. She saw how the game wasn't just about physical skill. It was designed to mess with their minds. Strange lights flickered at the edges of the arena, casting illusions that made the challengers question what was real. At one point, one of the men stumbled, clearly dazed, as if he had seen something that didn't belong. Kate realized then that Diesel's game was more than a test. It was a trap. It broke people down, made them doubt themselves, and then built them back up in a way that left them vulnerable to Diesel's influence. She had to find a way to stop it. Her heart pounded as she noticed a small doorway on the far side of the chamber, half hidden behind a curtain. A pair of guards stood nearby, but their attention was on the match. Kate knew that whatever secret Vin Diesel was hiding, it had to be behind that door. Summoning all her courage, she slipped from her seat and moved carefully along the wall, keeping to the shadows. Her movements were smooth and silent, thanks to the training she had given herself over the years. She made her way to the door just as one of the guards turned his head. "Hey!" he barked, his hand on the hilt of his sword. Kate didn't panic. She pulled her hood lower and forced a calm smile. "I'm just looking for the bathroom," she said softly. The guard eyed her suspiciously, but before he could reply, a loud cheer erupted from the arena as one of the challengers landed a hit. The guard turned his head instinctively, and Kate seized the moment, slipping through the door and closing it behind her. She found herself in a narrow hallway lit by flickering candles. The air smelled of damp stone and something metallic like old blood. She followed the hallway, her senses sharp, every step taking her deeper into the heart of Diesel's lair. She knew she was risking everything, her life, her freedom. But she had no choice. Her people were in danger, and she would not abandon them to this darkness. She had to learn how Vin Diesel's game worked and how he used it to control minds. Only then could she hope to defeat him. With her dagger ready in her hand and her heart set on her mission, Kate pressed forward into the unknown, determined to uncover the truth that could save her kingdom. Princess Kate moved down the narrow hallway, her dagger clutched tightly in her hand. Every flickering candle cast shadows that danced along the stone walls, making the place feel alive with hidden dangers. The air felt colder here, heavy with secrets that clung to the silence. She paused every few steps, listening for any sounds of movement. Her instincts told her she was getting close to something important. She turned a corner and found herself at the entrance to a small chamber. The door was slightly ajar, and a faint, eerie light spilled into the hallway. Voices drifted out, deep, serious voices. She held her breath and inched closer, peeking through the gap. Inside, she saw Vin Diesel standing with a group of men. He was taller than everyone else, his presence dominating the room like a storm cloud. On a table in front of him sat a strange device made of wires and glass, humming softly with a blue glow. Kate's eyes widened. Whatever this device was, it felt dangerous. Vin Diesel's voice cut through the air like a blade. "With this," he said, his tone cold and confident, "I will control the minds of every soul who dares to play my game. No one will question my rule. They will follow me willingly, without even knowing they have no choice." A murmur of agreement passed through the men. One of them, his face half hidden in shadow, asked, "But what about the princess? Some say she's been asking questions. She's smarter than most." Diesel's lips curled into a cruel smile. "Princess Kate is no threat to me. She's just a girl playing at being a hero. If she dares to interfere, she'll find herself a pawn in my game just like the others." Kate's heart raced. She pressed her hand against the wall to steady herself. Vin Diesel wasn't just a game master. He was a tyrant. His device didn't just challenge people, it controlled them, turning them into obedient servants. That's why the guards in the palace had seemed different. That's why the people who played his game came back, changed. She knew now that stopping him wasn't just about protecting her kingdom's pride. It was about saving every mind, every soul in the realm. If Diesel succeeded, the entire kingdom would become his puppets. She couldn't allow that. Carefully, she backed away from the door, her mind already racing with ideas. She needed to find a way to disable the device. But how? It looked complicated, a mix of technology and dark magic. She would need help, someone with knowledge of machines or ancient spells. She thought of her friend Lucas, the kingdom's best mechanic, who had a knack for understanding things others found impossible. She made her way back down the hallway, each step feeling heavier than the last. Every second she delayed, Diesel's power grew stronger. She had to act quickly. She slipped through the secret door, emerging back into the arena's chaos. The crowd was still cheering, completely unaware of the danger that lurked beneath their feet. Kate moved swiftly, her hood drawn low as she made her way out of the underground arena. Her heart pounded in her chest, not from fear, but from determination. She had discovered Diesel's plan, but she couldn't fight him alone. She needed allies. Brave, skilled allies who would stand with her against this darkness. As she reached the edge of the city, the first hints of dawn colored the sky. She paused, taking a deep breath. Vin Diesel might think she was no threat, but he had underestimated her. Princess Kate was not just a royal. She was a warrior in the making. With her eyes set on the road ahead, she vowed to gather the strength she needed to face Diesel and destroy his device. For her people, for her kingdom, for freedom. Princess Kate hurried down the winding path that led out of the city, her cloak pulled tight against the cool morning breeze. The dawn sun had barely broken the horizon, but she felt as though every second counted. Vin Diesel's device was a threat unlike any she'd faced before, and she knew she couldn't defeat it alone. She needed help, and she knew exactly where to find it. She reached the edge of the forest that bordered the kingdom, where the tall trees stood like silent guardians. Beyond the forest lay the small workshop of Lucas, the kingdom's most gifted mechanic and a trusted friend. Kate had always admired Lucas's ability to understand even the most complex machines. If anyone could help her figure out Diesel's device, it was him. As she entered the forest, the familiar sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves brought a moment of calm, but her mind remained sharp, focused on the task ahead. She thought about Vin Diesel's words in that secret chamber, his confidence that he could control everyone, that no one could stop him. She clenched her fists. He would learn soon enough that she was not so easily broken. After a long walk, she reached Lucas's workshop, a small building surrounded by old gears and tools. Smoke rose from the chimney, and the smell of oil and metal filled the air. She knocked on the door, her heart beating fast. Lucas answered with a grin, his hands covered in grease. "Princess Kate, what brings you here at this hour? Trouble at the palace?" Kate wasted no time. She stepped inside and closed the door behind her. "Lucas, I've discovered something terrible. Vin Diesel has a device, a machine that controls minds. He's using it to trap people in his game and turn them into his followers." Lucas's eyes widened. Mind control? That's dark magic combined with machinery. Very dangerous stuff. Do you know what it looks like? Kate nodded. "I saw it. It's like a sphere of glass and wires, glowing with a blue light. I heard him say it can control anyone who plays his game. He plans to use it to rule the kingdom." Lucas wiped his hands on a rag, his expression serious. "We need to stop him before he makes his move. Did you get close enough to see how it works?" Kate shook her head. "No, but I know where it is. It's in a hidden chamber beneath the arena. We need to figure out how to destroy it, or at least disable it." Lucas rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "If it's powered by a magical core, we might be able to disrupt it with a strong enough shock. Or, if it's relying on certain energy channels, we could cut those and render it useless. But it won't be easy." Kate's eyes hardened. "Nothing worth doing ever is. I need you to help me, Lucas. You've always been able to fix what others thought was impossible. I believe in you." Lucas smiled, a determined glint in his eye. "Then let's do this, Princess. Together." They spent the next few hours in Lucas's workshop, sketching plans and discussing every detail she could remember. Lucas pulled out old books of spells and diagrams of ancient machines, combining his knowledge of engineering with the kingdom's magical history. Kate watched as he scribbled notes and tested small models, his mind working at lightning speed. By the time the sun was high in the sky, they had a plan. It wouldn't be easy, and it would be dangerous, but Kate felt hope for the first time in days. Together, they would confront Vin Diesel and his terrible device, and they would bring freedom back to the kingdom. Kate tightened her cloak and stood tall. "Let's finish this, Lucas. For the people. For our kingdom." Lucas nodded, his eyes filled with resolve. "For all of us." The afternoon sun cast a golden glow over the treetops as Princess Kate and Lucas set out on their mission. Lucas carried a leather satchel filled with tools, wires, and small glass vials that he insisted were essential. Kate carried her dagger, but more importantly, she carried the weight of responsibility for her kingdom. Every step they took brought them closer to the underground arena and Vin Diesel's dangerous game. They moved quickly but cautiously, avoiding the main roads and staying within the cover of the forest whenever possible. Lucas had suggested they use one of the old supply tunnels that led into the city's underground levels. These tunnels had once been used to transport food and weapons during the early days of the kingdom, but now they were abandoned and forgotten by most. "Are you sure this tunnel will get us close to the arena?" Kate asked, her voice low but steady. Lucas nodded. "If my memory is right, and it usually is, this tunnel will bring us right beneath the lower levels of the arena. From there, we can find a way into Diesel's chamber and destroy that device." Kate trusted Lucas. He had always been clever and resourceful, and his confidence gave her strength. As they walked, she thought about the device she had seen, the strange wires, the humming glow, and Diesel's promise of total control. She felt a chill at the memory. She had to stop him. After what felt like hours, they reached a small wooden door hidden behind a thick curtain of vines. Lucas pushed it open with a creak, revealing a stone staircase that spiraled downward into darkness. The air smelled of damp earth and old secrets. Kate took a deep breath and gripped her dagger tightly. "This is it," she whispered. Together, they descended the stairs, each step echoing in the silence. The walls were lined with old torch brackets, but most of them were empty. Lucas pulled a small lantern from his bag and lit it, the soft light casting long shadows ahead of them. At the bottom of the stairs, they found themselves in a narrow corridor. Water dripped from cracks in the ceiling, creating small puddles on the ground. The air felt heavier here, as if the darkness itself was pressing down on them. "We're close," Lucas whispered, pointing to a faint glow coming from around the next corner. "That must be the entrance to the underground arena." Kate's heart pounded. She nodded and moved forward, every muscle in her body tense. She peered around the corner and saw a wide door guarded by two men. They wore the same black cloaks she'd seen on Diesel's followers in the arena. Lucas leaned in and whispered, "We need a distraction. Otherwise, they'll never let us through." Kate thought for a moment, then smiled. "Leave that to me." She reached into her cloak and pulled out a small glass vial filled with a bright powder, a gift from the royal alchemist for emergencies. She winked at Lucas, then threw the vial at the wall near the guards. A bright flash erupted, lighting up the corridor and momentarily blinding the guards. As they stumbled, coughing and waving their arms, Kate and Lucas sprinted past them and slipped through the door. Inside, the chamber looked just as Kate remembered. The device stood at the center of the room, its blue glow pulsing like a heartbeat. Vin Diesel was nowhere in sight, but the room hummed with the same dark energy she had felt before. Lucas's eyes widened as he examined the device. "It's more powerful than I thought, but I think I can disable it, if you can keep watch." Kate nodded, her determination stronger than ever. "Do it. I'll protect you." As Lucas began to work, Kate stood guard, her eyes sharp and her dagger ready. She knew the battle had only just begun, but she was ready for whatever came next. Princess Kate stood near the strange device, her dagger clutched tightly in her hand, as Lucas worked furiously with his tools. The blue glow from the device cast eerie shadows on the walls, giving the chamber a haunted feel. Every second that passed made her heart pound harder. She knew they had to act quickly. If Vin Diesel discovered them here, they'd both be in grave danger. Lucas muttered to himself as he examined the device. "It's a mix of technology and dark magic. I've never seen anything like it," he said, his voice filled with both wonder and concern. "Can you disable it?" Kate asked, her voice low but steady. Lucas glanced up at her with determined eyes. "I think so. There's a core at the center. If I can overload it, it should shut down. But it might get dangerous, so be ready." Kate nodded. "Do what you have to. I'll make sure no one stops you." As Lucas continued his work, Kate listened carefully for any sounds of footsteps in the corridor. Her senses were sharp, her mind focused. She couldn't let Vin Diesel's guards, or Vin Diesel himself, catch them. The thought of facing him in his own lair made her shiver, but she pushed the fear aside. She was a princess, but more than that, she was a fighter now. Suddenly, a loud cheer erupted from above, the crowd in the arena. Diesel must have started another match. Kate felt a surge of urgency. They needed to finish before the game ended and Diesel returned. Just then, a sound caught her ear. Soft at first, like a whisper of movement. She spun around and saw a shadow at the doorway. A guard in a black cloak had entered the chamber, his eyes widening as he saw Lucas at the device. "Hey!" he shouted, drawing his sword. "Intruders!" Kate reacted instantly. She lunged forward, blocking the guard's path. He swung his sword clumsily, but she ducked and swept her dagger across his arm, forcing him to drop his weapon. He cried out in pain, but before he could call for help, Kate knocked him unconscious with the hilt of her dagger. She dragged him into the corner, hoping no one else had heard. Lucas looked up, his face pale. "That was too close. I need a few more minutes." Kate took a deep breath. "You'll get them. Just hurry." Another sound, a heavier one this time, echoed down the corridor. It was the unmistakable sound of boots. Kate's heart raced as she saw Vin Diesel himself enter the room, his black coat swirling around him like a dark cloud. His eyes were cold and full of fury. "Well, well," he sneered. "Princess Kate, I should have known you'd interfere, and you brought your little friend too." Kate held her dagger ready, standing between Vin Diesel and Lucas. "Your game ends here, Diesel. Your device is going to be destroyed." Vin Diesel laughed, the sound low and dangerous. "You think you can stop me? I am the master of this game. Every mind that's touched my device is mine to command." Lucas worked frantically behind her, his hands a blur of movement. Sparks flew from the device as he disconnected wires and twisted knobs. Diesel's eyes glowed with anger. "You think you can save them? You're too late." Kate felt her resolve harden. "I won't let you control my people. I'll fight you with everything I have." Vin Diesel raised his hand, and the air around him seemed to ripple with power. Kate gripped her dagger and braced herself. The final showdown was here. She would not back down. She would protect Lucas, destroy the device, and free her kingdom from this darkness. As Diesel stepped forward, the room filled with the crackling energy of both magic and technology. Kate stood her ground, ready for the fight of her life. Princess Kate's heart thundered in her chest as Vin Diesel stepped closer, his presence like a dark storm cloud. The blue glow from the device flickered, casting ghostly light across his face, making his cold smile even more terrifying. She gripped her dagger tighter, determined not to let him see her fear. Lucas worked furiously behind her, his hands moving faster than she'd ever seen. Sparks flew from the device as he twisted wires and disconnected circuits, his face lit with concentration and worry. Kate could hear his breath quickening. She had to hold Diesel back, no matter what. "You think you're a hero," Diesel taunted, his voice low and full of menace. "But you're just a scared girl playing at being brave. My game is bigger than you can ever imagine. It's bigger than your kingdom, your people, your silly sense of right and wrong." Kate swallowed her fear and met his gaze. "I'm not afraid of you, Diesel. I'm not afraid of your game. I fight for my people, and I'll fight until my last breath to protect them." Diesel's eyes darkened. "Then let's see how brave you really are." In a flash, he lunged at her, faster than she expected. Kate dodged to the side just in time, his hand barely missing her shoulder. She swung her dagger at him, but he caught her wrist with inhuman strength and twisted it, forcing her to drop the blade. Pain shot up her arm, but she clenched her teeth and kicked him in the stomach, forcing him to stumble back. Lucas shouted from behind her, "Kate, I'm almost there. Just keep him busy a little longer." She turned to face Diesel again, who was already recovering, his eyes glowing with fury. He raised his hand, and a surge of dark energy crackled in the air, making her hair stand on end. She'd never seen magic like this before, powerful, raw, and terrifying. Diesel hurled the energy at her, and she dove to the side, the blast smashing into the wall and sending pieces of stone flying. She felt the heat of it on her cheek and knew she had to be quick. She grabbed her dagger from the floor and charged at Diesel, her mind focused on his chest, the point where she might hit him hard enough to slow him down. He swung at her, but she ducked and slashed his arm. He roared in pain, his eyes blazing with rage. "You dare challenge me?" he screamed, his voice shaking the room. Kate refused to back down. "I dare because I must," she shouted, swinging again. Behind her, Lucas let out a shout. "It's working! The device is overloading!" Kate risked a glance and saw the device sparking and flickering wildly, its blue glow turning an angry red. Diesel saw it too, and his face twisted with panic. "No!" he bellowed, lunging toward Lucas. But Kate was faster. She leaped between Diesel and Lucas, slamming her shoulder into Diesel's chest. He stumbled, but his eyes glowed with rage and determination. "You cannot stop me," he roared. Lucas screamed, "Kate, now!" Kate turned just in time to see Lucas yank a final wire free. The device let out a deafening screech as its glow exploded in a burst of light. The chamber shook with the force of it, the energy wave throwing Diesel backward. Kate shielded her eyes from the blinding light, her heart hammering with hope. When the light faded, the device was shattered. Pieces of glass and metal lay scattered across the floor. Vin Diesel lay motionless on the ground, his eyes wide with shock and defeat. Kate looked at Lucas, his face sweaty and tired but filled with relief. She felt a surge of triumph. The device was destroyed. The kingdom was safe, for now. She helped Lucas to his feet, her heart swelling with pride and gratitude. Together they had faced the darkness and won. The chamber still hummed with the echoes of the device's destruction, a faint crackle of energy fading into silence. Princess Kate stood in the middle of the wreckage, her dagger still in hand, her chest heaving with exhaustion. She felt the weight of every battle, every decision pressing down on her shoulders. But as the dust settled, she knew that the fight wasn't over. Vin Diesel lay on the ground, his eyes staring blankly at the shattered device. For a moment, he seemed defeated, his power broken by the destruction of his precious machine. But then he moved, a slow, deliberate movement that sent a chill through Kate's bones. His eyes shifted from the broken device to Kate, and a cruel smile spread across his face. "You think you've won?" he sneered, his voice low and dangerous. "You think destroying the device ends this? I am the game. I am the power. You cannot stop me." Kate felt a tremor of fear, but she pushed it aside. She stepped forward, her eyes locked on his. "No, Diesel. You are nothing without that device. You've lost your hold on my people. Your game is over." Diesel's laughter was harsh and bitter. "You're a fool, Kate. Do you really think I need a machine to control people? I've always had the power. Fear, greed, desire. These are the real weapons, and I know how to use them better than anyone." Kate raised her dagger, her grip steady. "Maybe you're right, but you've underestimated one thing: hope. My people believe in me, and they will stand with me against your darkness." Diesel's eyes flashed with anger. With a roar, he lunged at her faster than she expected. His strength was monstrous, his hands grabbing her shoulders and forcing her backward. Kate struggled, pushing against his grip with all her might. Her dagger clattered to the ground as he forced her to her knees. "You're weak," he spat, his face inches from hers. "Just a little princess trying to play hero." Kate's heart pounded. She could feel his strength pressing down on her, the darkness of his presence trying to crush her spirit. But then she remembered everything she had fought for. Her people, her kingdom, Lucas's bravery, her own journey from the palace to this very moment. Summoning every ounce of strength, she pushed back against him, her voice fierce. "I am not weak. I am stronger than you will ever be, because I fight for others, not just myself." Diesel's grip faltered for a split second, just enough for Kate to twist free. She rolled to the side, grabbing her dagger from the ground. With a swift motion, she swung it upward, catching Diesel across the chest. He let out a roar of pain, his eyes wide with shock and fury. Stumbling backward, he clutched his chest where the blade had struck. You can't—" Kate rose to her feet, standing tall despite the pain in her arms and legs. "I can, and I will." Diesel's legs gave out, and he fell to his knees. His eyes, once filled with arrogance, now held only disbelief. This isn't how it was supposed to end," he whispered. Kate stepped closer, her voice steady and filled with compassion and determination. "No tyrant's story ends the way they expect. Your game is over, Diesel. Your darkness has no place in my kingdom." With a final gasp, Diesel's head drooped, and the light in his eyes faded. Kate stood over him, her dagger still in hand, her chest rising and falling with exhaustion and relief. She turned to Lucas, who had watched the battle with wide eyes. He stepped forward, his face filled with admiration and pride. "You did it, Kate," he said softly. "You won." Kate nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "We won," she corrected. "Together." Princess Kate and Lucas stood in the underground chamber, the air heavy with the memory of battle. Vin Diesel's lifeless form lay at their feet, his reign of darkness finally at an end. The shattered device glistened in the dim light, its once deadly glow now just a memory. The silence felt both comforting and unsettling. Kate let out a slow breath, the tension of the past days finally leaving her body. She lowered her dagger and wiped the sweat from her brow. She looked at Lucas, who was already inspecting the remains of Diesel's machine. His hands moved carefully, collecting the scattered pieces as though studying them might reveal the answers to every question they had asked themselves. Lucas glanced up at her and gave a small smile. "You really did it, Kate. You defeated him. You saved everyone." Kate shook her head, a modest smile on her lips. "No, Lucas, we did it. Together. I couldn't have done it without your help." Lucas's grin widened. "Well, I suppose that's true. I never thought my knowledge of machines would lead to a day like this." Kate laughed softly, the sound lifting the tension in the room. "And I never thought I'd find myself facing a man like Diesel, fighting for the minds of my people." Lucas packed the last of the broken device into a small bag. "What now?" he asked, his tone serious again. "The device is destroyed, but what about the people who were affected by it?" Kate's eyes grew thoughtful. "It won't be easy. The device's control might have left scars on their minds, but I believe in their strength. I'll need to gather the healers, the scholars, anyone who can help them recover. I'll also need to remind everyone that hope is stronger than fear." Lucas nodded in agreement. "And if there's anything left of Diesel's influence, we'll root it out. Together." Kate smiled, feeling the warmth of friendship and determination. "Together," she echoed. They made their way out of the chamber, the underground darkness giving way to the light of dawn filtering through the cracks above. As they emerged, the sounds of the kingdom waking up greeted them. Birds singing, the faint murmur of people returning to their lives, free from Diesel's shadow. The castle gates loomed in the distance, welcoming Kate back as both princess and hero. She could already see people gathering, news of Diesel's defeat spreading like wildfire. She paused for a moment, taking in the sight. Her people, her family, her friends were safe because she had chosen to fight, to be brave, to stand for something greater than herself. Lucas placed a hand on her shoulder. "You've always been strong, Kate. Stronger than even you realized." Kate looked at him, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you, Lucas. I couldn't have asked for a better friend." They walked side by side into the castle courtyard, where the people began to cheer. Some reached out to touch her hand. Others cried tears of relief. Children looked at her with wide, hopeful eyes. She felt her heart swell with pride and responsibility. Standing tall, she addressed them all. "Vin Diesel's darkness is gone. His game is over. But we must never forget what he tried to do. We must stand together, stronger, kinder, and more united than ever." The crowd erupted in applause, their voices rising like a wave of hope. Kate smiled, knowing this was just the beginning. She would rebuild her kingdom, heal her people, and protect them from whatever darkness might come next. And as the sun rose higher, casting its golden light across the castle, Princess Kate felt a quiet strength in her heart, a promise to her people that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would always be their protector, their leader, and their friend.